Hmm?
There we
Oh, he's got it? Okay.
go. Oh, sorry. Sometimes it just takes a minute. Okay, that was fun. All right, we're technically streaming now.
You say we're streaming now?
Yes. So I'm just going to keep it there.
Well, knowing that, we want to welcome everyone.
Hold on. Just let it be for a second. Make sure I'm clear. Okay. Yeah.
Well, this is Timothy Allen Smith of the Grace Unfiltered podcast, and want to welcome everybody to 2026. Hope everybody's starting their year off well. One of the things that we wanted to do here in 2026 is do some things that are live. We want to be able to go directly to our audience, whoever hears this, and just suggest that they give us some feedback. And if they can do that real time, that's all the better. So we just wanted to kick that off right now in early January. But before we actually get into too much at what our plans are, we want to take a trip back memory lane a little bit as we launch this on 2025 and just show some of the things that we've done. I think that some are aware, but we want more to be aware of that. And just give them a little bit of background and why we wanted to do this. We assume that everybody are learners like us and love learning. So we want to focus on the body, the mind, and the spirit through the transforming lens of grace. And so people want to grow old gracefully. So there's a lot of very practical things that we want to do. We want to talk about the body. We want to talk about health and wellness, and then talk about the mind, and that's all part of aging gracefully. But we don't want to neglect the spirit, and oftentimes people do. And you want to have a three-legged stool, and if you don't have the spiritual side or involved, then you're not going to have a stable life, and you're not going to live a full and abundant life. So that's why we have body, mind, and spirit. Anyway, 25 was a journey. We had about 9 months of, leading up to 25 too, we had about 9 months of construction and planning. And we solicited the advice of professionals in the audio and video field. One of the gentlemen is over here to my right behind the desk. And we get there. He's waving. Thank you. And so it was kind of like giving birth. Women certainly relate to that. That was a 9-month period for us as well, and getting this all built and designed and planned. And we're so thankful for all those people because we could not have done it by ourselves. And once it was launched, we just had friends of ours who, and I'll shout out to them, Dave and April Stout. We thought it would be fun to talk about marriage. A lot of people have aspirations to getting married, having a family. So we thought this would be a practical thing to talk about, and an uncomfortable thing to talk about, I might add, because it is the Grace Unfiltered podcast. We try to keep it real. We try to keep it authentic. And some things came up, I know, on our interview that I wasn't expecting to talk about. So we want to mention that. It's definitely worth checking out. We flipped the switch. So Dave and April interviewed us. We interviewed them. And it was a fun conversation. We've done a lot of things together. We've gotten to know them very well. So it was fun. So that was one of the highlights, particularly in the studio, because we wanted to break in the studio and get that going. And we thought that would be an easy or natural way of doing it and getting the studio kind of christened, if you will, or broke in. So that would be one of the first highlights that we had, particularly with the studio. And then we thought, maybe we should do other things outside the studio. So we were invited, in fact, by Dave and April to go to a rodeo. And we thought we would go on the street in the town there. So my wife had a camera and I had a microphone, and we would just go out onto the street. And you can see as he's scrolling there, there's probably something that we could click on that would illustrate. I think the marriage ones. I'm looking. Is that all the way down, or we go up? Yeah. So where you see my wife and I over there, and you see Dave and April. She's got her arm around Dave. That's the marriage one. And then up just above there, you see Si and I talking. You see us moving there. The owl, he's called it. He's clicked on that there. That was in Sisters, Oregon, and that was interesting. We stayed at this resort. And we introduced each other, and I said, "Hi, I'm Tim Smith or Timothy Smith. We have a podcast," and say, "Hey, would you have any interest in being on it?" And he said, "Sure." So he invited us in, and the next thing we knew it, we had our first remote, or what we call street talk. You can see the intro there. And what was so fun about it is you have no idea what to expect. You don't know what people are going to say or want to talk about, or what they're going to talk about. But he was a very colorful subject, and he's definitely up there on one of our, I guess you could say, Hall of Fame examples of street talk, because his name was Owl. But the neat thing is we were able to really bring it back around. He had some different ideas, but he was very authentic, and we were too. So we definitely shared the grace of God and what we thought about that. We didn't mince words, but we were very respectable, as we always are on these street talk situations. And then we went to Vancouver, Washington, and if you could find that, we had people walking their dogs, people were sitting on a park bench, and what really surprised us is people truly appreciated the topic of grace. She said, and as I recall, this lady that you're showing there, she said, that's an interesting topic, and they all had some kind of feedback like that, and appreciate you coming here to have this open conversation. And we found very quickly that this was a format that we really, really liked, and we never even thought about it when we were building and planning the studio. And there's a gentleman over with the white shirt there. He's only 19. He will be 20, I believe, later this month. And that's a story in of itself. We brought him along. He's had very limited education, formal education, that is. I think 6 months total. But he has an uncanny ability to memorize what he hears. So think of audiobooks, listening to an audiobook or audiobook of the Bible. And it's amazing. He's like in a walking encyclopedia because of his ability to memorize. People have heard of photographic memories. You see something and you instantly remember it. He's that way audibly. And I think of the movie Rain Man having kind of a superpower, and he certainly does when it comes to memorization. So We started talking, and I came up with a nickname, and that is Bible George, Bible Boy George. His last name happens to be George. So we hope to talk to him more in 2026 if he's interested in doing that. And that's another snapshot of something that I think stands out in reviewing the year 2025. As far as the body, I'm just scanning now. And yes, over to the left where it says mind in the metaverse, gentleman by the name of Dr. Rich. And he's a very charismatic guy, and we had a great time. Really enjoyed having him on there. He's definitely one of the top interviews, in my opinion. And he talked about music. That was kind of his angle, and how music is a great way to not only develop the mind, stretch the mind, and really learn. And he talks about that, whether you're playing an instrument or whether you're listening to music for memorization, like Bible Boy George learns. But he's very dynamic, and I would certainly encourage anyone listening now to check out his interview. You can't help but learn something. And speaking of musician, Aaron Meyer, we kind of met on a podcast, and it wasn't necessarily planned, but it kind of ended up that way. And he's a violinist, and he stands out, and I'm sure he would speak to that truth in terms of the mind, and how music is a great vehicle for learning and developing the mind. So I think you're pulling that up. I'm just scanning, trying to find it. I don't see it right now. There it is. A little, yeah. But what he's done, it reminds me of somebody we interviewed recently that's in ministry. He basically has transformed his craft, being a violinist, into a ministry of teaching younger people the importance of developing the mind and the body in coordination with one another through musical instruments, particularly the violin. So there's another look at him. And it turns out he's from Philadelphia, but he came through. There's a concert. It reminded me of that Lindsay. Can't think of her last name, but yeah, thank you. And there he is. So we're just watching that. So that's something worth checking out as well. And we point out his website and all that he's doing there, and how kids can get in that program. So anyway, that's body and mind together. I want to go back to something we did with the body. If you could, I was actually looking for someone locally that was involved in nutrition. And I came upon someone that was actually a bodybuilder. And that's right there. She talks about food as medicine out in Long Island, New York. And after recording her, I thought, gosh, I know somebody that I went to elementary school with, was on the 5th and 6th grade basketball team. And he's in his 60s, and he's actually bodybuilding now professionally, and is in several regional competitions. And he was such an inspiration to me that I really decided that I'm going to start working out. I'm going to get in better shape. I'm going to eat right. That's her participating. And she's amazing. She has a cookbook, a eating lean and healthy cookbook as well. She's raising 2 kids, and she's a nurse, and she's a bodybuilder. I mean, she does it all. In fact, there's some shots from her cookbook. And then, but anyway, back to my friend from elementary school. I remembered after interviewing her that he too is a bodybuilder. So he has an interesting background. He's an attorney. He ran for Congress, lost by only 1 vote, which that's mind-boggling to me. You could lose by just 1 vote. But that was the case. Right there he is. He looks the one that looks like Joe Rogan. I joke with him about that. I feel like I interviewed Joe Rogan, which would be a dream to be able to do that. But anyway, that's him. He tells some great stories, and he's telling a funny one there. But he worked in D.C. in a think tank, and I think we titled the podcast from Washington, D.C. to Washboard Abs. So that was the title of that. And there's some, but yeah, I mean, it's incredible. They say that as you age and you're a man, you lose 10% of muscle every 10 years. If he did, he got it all back. So that's a great example, and should be an inspiration to any man that is watching this that is aging, that you don't have to lose your muscle. You can get it back, or you can rebuild it. Here's one. The one about the dark truth, drugs, and violence. This is an interesting story, how we even found out about Bruce Wiseman. He, kind of his community service thing is exposing the ills or the hoaxes or the evils, actually, I have to be really blunt, the evils of psychiatric care, and I put care in quotes. So many people and so many different groups of people are faced with psychiatric drugs that make them suicidal. And one group is our United States military. Over the years, depending on who is in charge, thought that was the answer. And then they get out or get discharged, maybe because it's trauma from being in battle, and they find themselves strung out on drugs. They can't hold a job. They can't function, and they end up on the streets. And it's all because, or largely because, of the psychiatrics or psychotropic drugs. And that's what that interview was about. And we did a 4-part series. There he is. There's Bruce Wiseman. He has he's in my mind, he's a bit of a Leonardo da Vinci in a sense. I mean, he's a writer. He's in finance. In fact, we just recorded some finance things about the history of money and finance. He's had a finance, but he's had an amazing career of working with actors, producers, professional athletes, and managing their finances. And but on that particular one, he's talking about an area that he wants to let the world know about in terms of the ills of psychotropic drugs and the practices of that. And then more recently, we kind of finished the year out right there where you see the 40th anniversary of the movie Hoosiers. If you could just scroll up there and we'll kind of start to wrap things up. That was Steve Holler. He had the biggest part in the movie Hoosiers, and he's wearing a jacket from that movie where he played Raid Butler. And if the camera was down lower, you'd see his name on the jacket. So they gave that to them, and he actually wore it in the movie. And it says Raid on it. But he's the one that cold-cocked one of the other players. He what I mean by is he hit him, he punched him, and then got thrown from the game. But that was a huge movie. In fact, probably the most iconic sports movie ever made. And that was so much fun. We had 4 parts or 4 episodes, and there's Dennis Hopper. They were talking about that. And some of the stories, since we're looking at Dennis Hopper there, they wanted him for this because he was struggling with alcoholism in real life. And they spun him around off camera, and then when he went out onto the court, that he looked like he was stumbling and staggering because of being drunk. But that was one of those behind the scenes things that come up. And there were so many that Steve shared with us. And it was so much fun. And I'm from Indiana myself, so I could relate to the movie at so many levels. And it was based on the story of the Milan team. It was a small town called Milan. There was only 64 boys in that high school in Indiana. And they could find 7 boys that could actually play basketball. This was 1954, okay? So, and at that time, there wasn't what we call class basketball, okay? So every school in the state played against every school in the state to advance to the state championship. So if it was a high school that had, in the case of Milan's, only 100 people total, boys and girls ish, or some, even 150 people, going up against a high school that had thousands of boys and girls in it, they had an obvious advantage because they had more of a pool to choose from. But Milan, they only could find 7 boys to play, that could play. And they beat all these teams. Some of the teams had players on it that became Hall of Fame professional athletes. And it was just a joy to talk about that. It really was a David and Goliath story, and we titled it as such. And if you want to be inspired, watch that, and you don't have to be a sports fan to enjoy it. And I'm talking about the podcast. I'm also talking about the movie itself. So we wanted to, get that out because over the next 11 months now or so, working our way up to the 40th anniversary coming here in November of 2026, we wanted to jumpstart that. So that was a lot of fun, and we hope to have a lot of fun in 2026, and your comments are very helpful. So please subscribe and like what we're doing. Give us your feedback, your comments, and we really do want to hear from you. We need to hear from you. We need to hear what you like, what we could do better from your standpoint. And this is live, obviously. Why don't you just tell me? It'd be faster.
Okay, to review Dr. Pastor Richard and Pastor Richard.
So I think that it's unclear as to what I'm being asked, but I'm going to to let you know that there's a lot there, and we are excited about what we're able to accomplish. Oh, here's something that was kind of interesting. So you can tell that he's in his car, and he normally is in his office, but this just happened to be a kind of an emergency situation. He was still gracious to do it as he was leaving a place where he hadn't planned to be that night. And he said, well, can we do it in the car? And I said, yeah, that's fine. Everybody's here, wanting to and ready to record. So let's go ahead and do that. And he was quite a trooper from that standpoint. But yeah, this is an interesting topic. It's about the history of money and what it was leading up to something that's on people's minds today, and that's digital currency. And there are several examples there with Bitcoin and Ethereum and many others. But as I alluded to earlier, he worked in Hollywood, Beverly Hills. He had a financial firm there for 20 years that he founded and he was the CEO of. And his clients were actors, directors, producers, professional athletes. And it's worth checking out. Man has seen a lot, done a lot, experienced a lot. And if you could go back to the YouTube masthead there, just so people can see it, and then there's the one in the financial that we just did. But yeah, we feel like we have a pretty good cross section of body, mind, and spirit. We want to be developing that and diversifying that even more into 2026. And hopefully you'll be seeing more of these live broadcasts like this so that we can kind of stay on the pulse of what you're thinking and would like to see more of. And so please reach out to us. Let us know if how we can make things better. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I was thinking to Pastor Richard.
It's not part of what I thought about or prepared for, so I didn't want to. We have 2026.
Subscribers are his people.
Okay. Are there? Okay.